In this video, I'm going to be showing you what Eric Bosworth actually did to build one of the fastest, most efficient agencies that the life insurance industry has seen in the last 3 decades. I'm going to be breaking down the strategies, the thoughts, and how he completely revamped the way that people think about the life insurance industry. As always, please make sure that you guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll talk soon. I want to make this quick video on how Eric Bosworth specifically was able to change the game. And I think it's super important for us to learn from as life insurance agents and pay attention to if you're looking to have higher intent lead generation strategies. Okay. So the first thing Eric did was leverage the brand. So he didn't use lead vendors. I think a lot of people want to do this. They want these high intent leads that don't have a lot of friction. They want people coming through the pipeline, but they're not necessarily willing to go through the steps that are necessary. Sometimes it requires you to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get your ads to the place you need them to be. But when you're trying to run a business, that's what it's like. I think being a life insurance agent, we get so caught up in just the fast pacedness of trying to just get these leads and make sales. And I think that Eric came in and changed the way that lead generation was done as a life insurance agency. When he came from a business standpoint, he got with a marketing company and decided to actually create his own leads in his own in-house system. He got rid of the high cost, the low quality leads, the lack of exclusivity. And he realized that agents were just constantly getting to the bottom of a rat race by working with all these lead vendors, and instead decided, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm gonna actually create my own system, right? So what he did is he used his own personal brand to leverage his knowledge about index universal life insurance and health insurance by posting content, branding himself, and then generating his own leads. He started dishing them to his agents, and eventually people started catching on. Well, the quality of his leads, easily identifying and understanding that having a brand is the key to developing a strong infrastructure. Eric could probably stop working right now, theoretically, and as long as his team continues to elevate his brand, they will still have high quality leads coming through the pipeline because he's been able to establish, think about it, lead vendors have to gather 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 data points. This gentleman was literally just doing name, email, phone number, state. And people were closing these leads at a high clip because he created a brand. When you have a brand, you don't need to ask a ton of questions. I think everybody wants to get there, but they don't understand what he went through to do that. He was spending thousands and thousands of dollars every month on ads himself, and eventually just started bringing agents and addition them off. It's beautiful. Shout out to him for doing that. And if you ever see this, Eric, man, shout out to you, bro. Definitely dope to see somebody doing it the right way in the game for his entire agency. So I think his mindset was, hey, I'm going to stop reading these things. I'm going to have ownership of the audience that I have. And I think marketing on all platforms was something that a lot of people just didn't even think about. Me personally, even myself, I was thinking like, man, if I was a life insurance agency owner, this is brilliant, and I knew that it was going to continue to blow up. And now people are, trying to copy him doing the same thing, which is funny because it seems like it's this new thing, but all Eric did was took a real business principle and applied it to the life insurance space, which is so far behind. And there's so many people that aren't actually business owners. You're just a 1099 worker who thinks that you run a business, but you don't really run a business. And I say that in the most respectful way. You're kind of stuck to the reins of a life insurance company. That's a business, right? I think the misconception is that how much you all get paid or how much we get paid in this industry makes us a business owner, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because if they can pull it from you, you don't really have ownership of it. And I think that the thing that Eric did so well is he knew, hey, you know what? I am going to structure this like a business because leads is the lifeline. And if I'm constantly buying from other people, why not have my own in-house system? And the results are wonderful, right? He's able to generate high intent leads at a low cost. He can resell them to the general public, to his agents, to other people. You can't be mad at the man for knocking his hustle, right? He's able to establish a brand recognition that gives clients and agents more confidence. They want to come work with him because he's doing it in a cool way. He got tats. He's like doing his thing. So it's almost like he just came and completely revamped the game. I think he took and paid attention to a lot of what other people in the industry were doing and said, I'm just going to do it better. And like I said, I think it's really dope how you got it done. So the traditional model is really simple, right? Buy leads, buy mail house, work with a lead vendor, try to scale up. Whereas this thought process is like build your own in-house lead gen system by actually working with a marketing team. And it's what I preach on this channel. It's what I've been preaching. It's what I started with when we first started going. He just decided to go to actually like a legit marketing agency, which I think is beautiful. because they were able to provide him with even more resources like building out his website, leveraging his actual social media, editing his videos. Amazing move. So I think there's some key components that we should really talk about. Number one is marketing, right? When you have complete control over ad spend, you have control over everything, right? You control the messaging, you control the audience that you're targeting. You can fluctuate and adjust how much that you're spending in ads. Know a few media buyers that understand his system. I don't know them personally, but I've heard of the way that he's doing it, and it's very, very well laid out, right? I think the sales process as well is so tailored because he and they are focusing on creating scripts that optimize well. They have a CRM system. Like, it's like the way in which you start with the leads, you start having success, you start building out the CRM, you hire appointment setters, like you're building a business. And I think it's just the perfect layout. If anybody's trying to study, I think going to work with him or, people that are with him, I think is a great way to understand kind of the infrastructure that was created. And now everybody's following in suit. But once again, it's not anything new. It's just the way in which he delivered it, which I think is super important. I think that the edge, the thing that and I record this video because I wanted to really touch on these points, right? Like, I don't think people realize the issues with third-party lead vendors. You genuinely have no control over what's about to happen to your business. Like, if leads is the lifeline and you're hopping from person to person, 3 months here, 5 months here, which is interesting, man, because I say this just, because I can. If you're a life insurance agent or agency owner and you've got this far in the video, you've watched my content, like, you should ask yourself a serious question. Like, what am I actually trying to do here? I think people get caught up in the leaderboards. They want to look cool. They want to win an award, but they don't really have any money to show for it. They're writing policies for people to get hyped up over. It's like an adrenaline rush. It's like a quick high. But what are you trying to really build for? If you're just doing this yourself, if your agents can't eat, if you're making money and then losing money, like, you're not creating a system. And I think, everything gets affected because of that. Lead vendors can only do so much. You had mail houses that were doing their thing for a long time. People made a lot of money off of it, but they had to jack the price ups because they're in control. No amount of branding, if you're working with a lead vendor, is going to help you build your business, right? Or build an agency, should I say. I think studying businesses is the key to gaining the edge in the life insurance space. They're so far behind that things that seem new aren't new. Like, people think virtual assistants are new in the life insurance space. Appointment setters are new. They're not new. They've been around for decades. But the life insurance space is so far behind from a marketing standpoint, it feels like it is new, and it's not, right? When the brand from the ad to the lead to the CRM is all the same, you increase your conversion metrics. From the headline to the copy to the follow-up to the follow-up to the sales call to the follow-up if they don't close. If everything is the same, it looks the same, feels the same, has the same approach, it gives you an edge. This also makes agents more confident because when they see something on the way social media is framed now, a lot of these, agency owners want to bring in more agents, but you don't even have a solid infrastructure for them to come into. So how can you feel confident knowing that you're bringing somebody into something that you don't really know what's going on? You don't really have any control over it. I'm not saying it has to be perfect. Nobody's system is perfect, but they should have some level of structure. If you're buying leads from here, there, like, you'd be better off just paying more money to have your own system and figuring it out, or hiring a marketing team to figure it out for you, than you to just feel good about selling some leads, but then you bring the next person in, and it's so inconsistent. And that's why my biggest thing, and I think it's important, is if you're an agency owner and you're looking for a way to scale, you need to get your own marketing team. Genuinely, you can't do this on your own. You can make money, but it's going to be very difficult, because what's going to happen is, and I see it all the time, people that I work with, there'll be a big agency, and the people right beneath them, or not beneath them, or work alongside them, whatever words you want to use, their downline, their mentor, it doesn't matter. They're not even using the system that they created. So it's like you're creating these systems, but you don't have anybody in the position to actually help facilitate the reason why these systems exist, because you as the owner are telling them one thing, they have a bad week, they're like complaining to you, but they don't have anybody that can really solve their problems because you're just saying, go work with this lead vendor. It's like, no wonder you don't have a streamlined system. Like, in a business, when you come in, they say, this is what we do. This is how we do it. There is no, I'm going to go to this lead vendor and go here. I think people it's almost like when you're building an actual business, you're like shiny object syndrome, or girl in the red dress, or whatever you want to call it. It's this fascination with doing the new thing. And I'm, convicted of it too. But I think when it comes to building a brand and establishing your own in-house marketing system, you need to stick to something. You got to give it 3-6 months. How are you going to judge something over? People work with people for 2-3 months, and they're like, oh man, if you start getting wins, stick with it, right? Just because it took a while to get going doesn't really mean anything relatively. It's working now, right? So don't change something that's working, even if it didn't work as fast as you wanted to. And I think this is a perfect example, because they created a system, and I don't know how long it took them to do it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know much about his story outside the fact that I've watched a few videos and I see his ads and I understand what he's doing. And I get it. So I'm like, this is just a beautiful thing to break down because I think so many people want to learn how to do this, but they don't understand like what went into it. Like I'm positive that he spent tens of thousands of dollars to figure this thing out. And when he did, it was almost looked at as like, oh my goodness, you just figured out how to run ads. Like it's so simple, but it's like other people want that success, but aren't willing to even duplicate it, And even if you have a marketing team behind, I'm sure the company that he's worked with is amazing. They do wonderful work. They can't solve all the problems. Like you still got to spend the money. You got to figure out what works for you, your brand, your style, how it fits into the marketplace. And then you're able to grow. And you get to having these competitive edge, fast agent onboarding, increased closing rate. You eliminate inefficiencies that are caused by third-party lead vendors, which is what I was spending most of this time talking about. I think the most undervalued aspect of what Insurance Elevated actually did is they took a very difficult to understand product like an IUL or a whole life or the infinite banking or become your own bank or whatever. And if you agree or disagree with the gentleman's strategy and if you should use an IUL or whole life, that is not the purpose of this video. So please don't comment things like that. I'm simply talking about the strategy. He took something that was difficult to understand, how to use life insurance outside of the reasons that it's commonly known for, and made it attractive for not only agents, right, but for people. And they were like, you know what? I actually really like this. And he started getting lower cost per lead. And he started bringing in agents that were like, wow, this sounds interesting. This doesn't sound like the traditional life insurance that I've heard. And we've all heard about this idea of leveraging life insurance outside of the normal traditional reasons, right? That the banks use it, that you can leverage it for tax-free income. That there's all these different ways that you can use it, depending on how you structure, etc. But nobody actually went out there and did it at a high level and then built an agency and a brand around it. And that's what he did, right? So taking something that's very complex and making it very simple. You can do this for any product. You could do it for final expense. You could do it for mortgage. You could do it for health. You could do it for Medicare. You could do it for Obamacare, ACA. You could do it for any niche industry. It doesn't really matter. The emphasis is taking something that's complex, making it simple, and then making it attractive. That's the piece. It's not just taking something that's people that understand the product can take it from, hey, this is something that is very difficult to understand to simple, but who can take it from something that's simple to something that's attractive to other people on the outside and to a client. That is where the difference, right? So that's really my thought process, right? Like understanding that leverage comes in this life insurance space when you can understand how to paint a picture in the simplest way from the client's perspective, but also from the agent's perspective. Hey, we have our own in-house system. You're going to plug in. We just focus on IULs and we sell low health on the side. That's really simple rather than, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to sell life insurance, all these different type of leads. No, we run our leads. We sell IULs. Simple scales, complex fails. That's what my mentor always says, right? And it's true because that's the core concept, right? That's the 80-20, right? We're going to get rid of all this unnecessary, the fluff, the things that don't really matter. Now, I think that you can equate an IUL with like high ticket sales, which is also very attractive because when you get an agent that's selling final expense or mortgage final expense, a few $100, IUL, a few $1,000s, depending on how you structure it and how you teach them, right? How to write an illustration, how to properly set up even a simplified issue IUL. So it's almost like you're attracting high ticket sales reps and you can get on the phone with confidence rather than thinking they're only going to make $600 and then they get out because they get a charge back. You have them dealing with individuals and IULs that stick. Retention, meaning that people aren't falling off the books, which means that there's no chargebacks, which means you should keep more agents, which means it's easier to scale and easier to recruit. So see, it all ties together. Something that was complex that people were afraid of, that didn't want to mess with, has now been made into something that's very simple, very teachable. But it took time, it took effort. He sat down and figured out and created a game plan. I think that's very important for everybody to pay attention to. And this is my favorite part. Agents are now becoming long-term, high-performing producers instead of churning out due to lack of understanding. When you have a product or service that appeals to a larger demographic, to a more affluent demographic, you are giving yourself longevity just inherently based off of what you're telling and teaching people, which, in my opinion, is another form of leverage. So I personally want to say once again, like this model, if you're a life insurance agent or agency owner trying to figure out how to scale, you don't want to come work with a marketing company, myself, it doesn't matter. Just study what they did, right? Go back, look at the history, go through his Instagram, his Facebook, read and listen to his story, pay attention to what he's doing, right? Watch his feet, not his mouth, pay attention to what he's actually doing, what they're doing. And I think that you'll learn, right? And obviously, you can get in contact with their company, you can get in contact with us. It's not really promotion either way. At the end of the day, I make all this content for the betterment of life insurance agents and agency owners to understand what's really going on, to help them get out of the lead vendor rat race, to actually help them grow. And this video just, caught my eye. I was like, this is something I want to go ahead and just grab my phone and record and hop on Loom and record for you all. It's very, very important. If you want to build your business to be sustainable, find something, make it simple, understand the future of the industry, right? And that he took advantage of social media and said, everybody's on here. And everybody's buying leads from these Facebook lead vendors, but they're not branded. So he just took what's in the business world and combined it with the life insurance world and just put fuel on it. Ended up teaching all of his agents about about them having their own CRM, them hiring appointment setters. I mean, I think it's worth studying. So Eric, I appreciate you for, changing the game, man, for real. For anybody else that may be interested in strategies like this, you can just click through my channel. I have tons of different things where I'm breaking down really just how to be successful in the life insurance space and get you to grow, write good business and market really, and grow and focus on lead generation, different lead generation strategies, whether it's yourself, whether it's paying somebody, which I always recommend, or whether it's just learning. I think it's very important in today's day and age in the kind of direction we're going. So hope this helped. As always, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll check you guys next time. All right, peace.